fast. A better price and faster delivery. All locations at MattressExpressNY.com. Call 1-800-NEW-GUYS, and do not forget we have a new location in Auburn in the Tractor Supply Plaza.
Drive home with Maggie and Perloff. Afternoons 3 to 6 on WSKO Syracuse, a Cumulus media station. The voice of the Central New York sports fan. Score 1260. Welcome to your home for local sports in Syracuse. Outside the Box Score with Mark Rowlands starts right now.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Outside the Box Score with me, Mark Rowlands, your home for local sports in Syracuse, right here on the Score 1260. Solo show today. Josh is currently helping his brother move into a new apartment, so unavailable for the show today. Last show of 2024. Year has absolutely flown by with all the different stuff going on in the world of sports, especially in Syracuse area sports. We just wrapped up another Syracuse college football season last night, the Holiday Bowl against Washington State, and really a much better game than a lot of people were expecting in terms of back and forth nature. Washington State putting up 21 points in the first quarter against Syracuse. They had 32 players in the transfer portal, but still came out and played their butts off. So a lot of credit going Washington State's way today, but Syracuse just absolutely dominated offensively in this one. It really was fun to watch, something we've gotten used to seeing out of Syracuse thus far this year. And if that was the swan song for Kyle McCord, wow, what a way to go out. 24 of 34, 453 passing yards, and a touchdown for the Ohio State transfer quarterback. Of course, he is trying to get a waiver from the NCAA to potentially return to Syracuse University next year. We're not sure about the status of that so far. So hopefully, at least I think hopefully, he comes back to Syracuse next year and puts up absolute numbers, because he just last night became the all-time leader for single-season passing yards and completions in ACC history. Just imagine what he can do in year 2 under Fran Brown if he were able to come back. We're going to talk a lot more about that game as the show continues. We're going to talk we are going to talk about SU basketball, but not so much in the sense of what to look forward to with the team. And we're not going to sit here and break down their game against Bucknell today, which is at 2 o'clock on everyone's favorite network to watch the ACC, the CW. No, this Syracuse team confuses me more and more as the season goes on. Because right when I thought, okay, we know what we can expect out of Syracuse. They're not going to be good defensively, but hey, they'll score some points that'll keep them in games. Then they go and play Maryland, and they lose by 27 points and put up one of the worst offensive halves of basketball I have ever seen in the first half of that game. So I don't know anymore. I think the direction of Syracuse basketball right now can be brought into question, both for the future and for this season. We don't know if or when we are going to get J.J. Starling back. So right now, still without the best player on the team. It's embarrassing. That's the best way I can describe it. They are an embarrassment to what we've thought about SU basketball in recent years. And say what you want about the teams from the past couple of seasons, but it never felt this bad. At least in my opinion. I'd love to know your opinion. You can tell me your opinion. You can call in during breaks. 315-671-1260. 315-671-1260. Call during the break so I can screen your call, and I'll bring you on once we come back. Or you can hop in our chat. This show is simulcast live on Twitter, Twitch, and YouTube every single Saturday. So if you follow me on Twitter at marker_box, the live stream is right there on my Twitter page. Go to twitch.tv/marker_box, the same as my Twitter handle. You can see the stream there as well. We've got Pat in the chat right now. And you can go to the Score 1260 YouTube channel, and you'll be able to see the stream there as well. So a bunch of different ways for you to chime in, and I hope you do. Like I said, solo show today. Going to be talking a lot about Syracuse sports and other things going on. Corbin Burns signing with the Arizona Diamondbacks last night, a kind of surprising deal in Major League Baseball free agency. We are still in the midst of the first ever 12-team college football playoff. So a lot of things to talk about. So why don't you chime in? Especially right now is a good time because we're about to take a break. So we'll be right back on Outside the Box Score, your home for local sports in Syracuse on the Score 1260.
For the best local beer in Central New York, the only place you need to look is Myers Brewing Company, with 16 different beers on tap at both the Inner Harbor in Syracuse and the Palace that is the Casanova location. Myers Creek has something for everyone. Want a bite to eat? Both locations feature a kitchen with delicious pizzas, some of the best wings in Syracuse, and much more. Make sure to check out our friends at Myers Creek Brewing Company, the official bar of Outside the Box Score. Cashback is not available on gas in New Jersey, Wisconsin. $5,000.
Pat, I missed a lot of Fran's post-game comments. Did he shout out Myers Creek for their Dart beer? I did see the clip of him dumping the eggnog onto anyone that wasn't Dan Villari, which I thought was very funny. He just rocks, man. I hope he sticks around for a long time because I thought it was Dan Villari that was supposed to do that. I didn't realize it was Barron. Yeah, I knew there was an NIL deal involved. Yeah, it was Villari. Oh, I didn't know that the NIL was from Myers, which makes sense. I know that they're very involved. With Syracuse NIL, so they do look kind of similar. Outside the box, what's your name? Where you're calling from? Hey, Jamie, I'll throw you on hold. All right. Oh yeah, Jamie the FedEx guy. On hold. Big day today. Oh yeah, I just take it at least kind of easy, Pat. It's been a long couple of weeks. Oh no, you got sick before the show? That stinks. That's brutal, dude. And my body also hates me, but.
Hi, I'm Dr. Peter Stahl, board-certified urologist and senior vice president of men's sexual health at HIMSS. I've helped many guys with ED in my 12 years of practice. But now you can get world-class care for ED 100% online by going to HIMSS.com. So what are you waiting for?
To start your free online visit and find ED treatment at up to 95% off brand name prices.
Go to HIMSS.com/joy.
And we're back Back outside the box score with me, Mark Rowlands, your home for local sports in Syracuse, right here on the Score 1260. Gonna jump over to the phone lines. We got Jamie the FedEx guy calling in. Jamie, Happy New Year. I hope you had a great holiday. What's on your mind? Yeah, I did, yes. That signing shocked me. Because I really didn't I didn't expect him to take a deal like that. I thought he would be getting a lot more than um I thought he'd be getting a lot more than what he got. I didn't expect it to be 1 year, 15 million. I thought he would at least get a multi-year deal, maybe 3-4 years. Gleyber Torres is a really solid player. I love the move for Detroit. But it was just a lot less than I was expecting him to get.
That's cool. That's cool. I liked it too because some, they say some people leave New York and then they become even better. Some of them do.
Yeah, I mean we've seen it in the past with guys like Sonny Gray, who was great outside of New York. Then he went to the Yankees, wasn't exactly the same. Then he went to Cincinnati and Minnesota, and became the guy that we saw in Oakland. So it can happen, and I do think Gleyber's a really talented player. Inconsistent, sure. Not always, doesn't always seem to hustle or give 110%. Yeah, but that's a criticism against a lot of players these days. I don't really hold it against him too much. So I think it's a really good deal for the Tigers.
That's cool. And then did you like Cody Bellinger and Paul Goldschmidt to the Yankees? Did you like that?
Yeah, the Yankees are making a lot of interesting moves because once you lost out on Soto, you had to pivot. And I'm kind of annoyed that the Red Sox haven't done more like what the Yankees have done. And you can't just make the one move and be like, okay, we're good. The Red Sox went out and got Garrett Crochet, which is great. I love Garrett Crochet. He's an absolutely filthy lefty. And I would like to, I love the fact that he's in a Red Sox uniform now. It really reminds me of the Chris Sale trade from a few years ago that ended up getting the Red Sox a World Series. But that's it. The Yankees lose out on Fried. They're like, or on Soto. They're like, all right, we'll get our own nasty lefty in Fried. We'll get two former MVP winners in Goldschmidt and Bellinger. And Goldschmidt, I think, will play well in that stadium. He's got a lot of power to the opposite field. That short porch and right is going to be really beneficial for him. And Bellinger's got a swing that was built to play in Yankee Stadium. You move him into center field, put Judge back in right. I think with Dominguez in the left, all of a sudden your outfield is a lot more athletic and a lot better defensively automatically, with Judge out of center and now in right field, where his more natural position. I love both of those moves for the Yankees. Now, do I think either of them are going to win MVP again? No. Do I think Cody Bellinger is going to be a lot better than he was last year? Yes.
That's cool. That's cool. And then, Mark, like I said, I don't know, a month or so ago, this is now, Syracuse, New York is now a football town.
Yes.
Basketball's an afterthought. Who would imagine that?
Yeah, after that, after your Hoyas did what they did to us at the Dome, it was, I pretty much declared basketball season over. And then they go and play Maryland at the Barclays Center and get absolutely embarrassed for 40 minutes of basketball. I felt a lot better about football than I did about basketball this year, which is maybe the first time I've ever been able to say that. But at the same time, well, that's great, and I love SU having a good football team. I kind of wish, and maybe I'm asking too much as a fan, why can't both be good at the same time? That would be fun. Wouldn't it be really fun to be like an Alabama who goes from a successful football season into a successful basketball season? That'd be great. But no, we had to sacrifice the one that the school is known for so our football team could be good. It sucks.
Turn back the clock to the 80s and 90s. That's the last time both were good, I think, at the same time.
Yeah, and The basketball team was good, but like, and the football team were good, but it seemed like they were never, like
Great.
this year I would say was a great season for Syracuse football. They win 10 games. They dominate a bowl game. They've got the leading passer in ACC single season history on the team. Everything went well for Syracuse outside of a couple of bad losses. We're talking about a potential playoff team here if they beat Stanford or Pitt. But now we've got a basketball team that stinks. They stink.
That's funny. And then, Mark, last thing, I know you do fantasy, but it's like an afterthought for you. You're not too in tune to it, but good luck. Boy Green can't win the championship. I want him to win the Champs League, but he got knocked out. So rather than winning any championship, I want him to win none. So take him out and welcome to the Champs League. You get to do the live draft with us next year.
I'm glad you brought this up, Jamie, because I was glad you called because I knew you were going to bring this up. I have cared so much more about fantasy football this year than I have in maybe any other year past, because I'm sick and tired of this Chumps League. I was getting real sick and tired of being in the second league. I mean, I started in the third league. I was in the Man-Child Show Triple C League to start, got out of there real quick, made my way up to the Chumps League. It's been a few years. These are not real people. I want to be playing with the Brian Drakes, with the Joe Bartles. I want to be playing with the top end fantasy experts that we have playing in the Champs League. So I'm thrilled with the fact that I've already clinched my spot in our top league next year, so I can continue to dominate. I don't know if you heard, I had back-to-back 200-point weeks, Jamie, in the playoffs. We get to the playoffs. I scored 200 to get to the championship game. There was no one that was going to be stopping me. And so I'm tired of these scrubs down here in the Chumps League, and that includes Boy Green. I'm going to wipe him. I'm going to wipe him this week. He's projected for like 130. I think I'm projected for 155. I want it to be a slaughter. And Boy Green, I know you're not listening, but if you are, I'm going to clip this and put it on Twitter. Boy Green, if you're listening, I want you to know that you don't stand a chance, pal. All right? Your season's over. My name's going on that trophy.
That's awesome, fella. And, have a great rest of the day and have a great New Year.
You too, Jamie. Happy New Year. Thanks for calling in, pal.
Okay, bye.
There he is, Jamie the FedEx guy. I knew he was going to talk about fantasy football, which I'm glad. Because like I said, Boy Green, I'm calling you out. Even though he's already got 30 points or something. It's tough with all the midweek games and stuff to keep track of. And there's football today. Big NFL slate today, too. But you're going down, Paul. I'm looking right into the camera when I say this. You are going down. But if not, I'm just happy to be in the Man-Child Show Champs League next year. It's been a long time coming. I think this is my 4th year playing fantasy with these guys. So I'm happy to actually be up top with the big guns. I'm going to be going to that live draft next year, putting on a show for those guys. Hopefully I'm able to stay up and I don't get relegated after year 1. Another timeout. We'll be back in a little bit here on Outside the Box Score, your home for local sports in Syracuse on the Score 1260. If you're a fan of local craft beer, the only place you need to go is Myers Creek Brewing Company with 16 brews on tap at both the Cazenovia and Inner Harbor locations. Myers Creek has the best selection of locally brewed libations in all of central New York. Want a nice hazy IPA? The Velvet Fog is a must-try. More of a traditional Pilsner, how about the Floatin' on By? And for you sour drinkers, the It Takes Blue to Mango. So crack open a cold one with the official beer of Outside the Box Score, Myers Creek.
Okay, I have to tell you.
I agree, Pat. I think Glaber got kind of a bad rap as a Yankee. Yeah, was he one of the guys they extended early? Yeah, I mean, he's made $35 million up to this point. He I've always kind of liked Glaber. I don't understand why a lot of Yankee fans didn't. I mean, outside of 2019 with the juiced ball when he hit 38 home runs, he was just a solid contributor his entire career there. And the contract he just signed, 1 for 15 is insane. How that guy didn't get 5 years for 100? Yeah, I mean, he does sort of mess with the Tigers lineup. So he's going to play second. Colt Keith is going to move over to first. And then Torkelson, part-time DH? What are they going to do with their former number 1 overall pick? Who I know hasn't been great, but, some guys need a little bit more time to develop. Torkelson has shown flashes of being the guy that, could be a middle-of-the-order bat. It's weird. And and Glaber doesn't want to play third. Torkelson has not been good, but I feel like you got to give him a little, one more chance. He's been good in the past. I mean, just last year, he had a 107 OPS plus isn't great, but he hit 31 home runs. And he's under team control. He's 25 years old. You're just going to give up on that guy who's shown he can be a 30 home run hitter? It's weird. And we're back outside the box score with me, Mark Rowlands, your home for local sports in Syracuse on the score 1260. Pat and I were just having a discussion in the chat about Gleyber Torres and his contract with the Detroit Tigers, 1 year, $15 million for the former Yankee infielder. And I thought it was and I was just talking to Jamie about it. I think it's a strange contract. I don't think Gleyber Torres needs a 1 year prove it deal, in my opinion. He's been a solid contributor for pretty much his entire major league career. But what it also does is it shakes up the Tigers lineup in a way that I find interesting. So Glaber is going to play second. Colt Keith, their starting second baseman from this past year, is going to move over to first, where they have Spencer Torkelson, who is a former number 1 overall pick. Now, granted, hasn't lived up to that status yet. Just finished his age 24 season. He does have 130 home run season in 2023, just 2 seasons ago. And it seems like they're giving up on the guy a little quick, in my opinion. Now, I said he's 25 years old. You've still got him under contract. And Pat brought up 25 is old, and you know it. Now, this is a problem I have with all sports, mainly basketball and a little bit of football. But it's a problem I have with all sports is the value placed on 3-4 year college players now is so much lower in basketball, and I don't get it. I just don't. You have guys that'll play 4 years and they're 22 and everyone's like, they're so old coming out of the draft, and they're 22 years old. They've got minimum 10 years of good play in them. I don't quite understand it. And it's the same way with baseball now too. When these prospects come up and it's like, yeah, but he's already 24. It's like, yeah, not everyone's Bryce Harper and is an all-star at 19, or Mike Trout, or Gunnar Henderson, or these guys that come up super early. Aaron Judge was 25 when he came up. That guy's doing pretty okay. There is a reason that these guys, for years and years and years of professional athletics, have gone through a developmental system and really hit their prime when they're 25, 26 years old, or at least that's the way it used to be. I don't know. I just don't think 25 is old. I think Torque, if maybe he needs a change of scenery, Maybe he needs a new hitting coach, needs to change his approach a little bit. But I think Spencer Torkelson could still be something. And Pat, I would have loved to hit my prime too, but it just never came. Pat said I would love to hit my prime. I stared my prime dead in the face, said no, and it moved on. It never came. So just throwing that out there. Speaking of contracts, Corbin Burns, Cy Young winner, ace of the Baltimore Orioles this past year. 6 years. I got to get the number right again. I had the Jeff Passan tweet up. It was his contract he signed with Diamondbacks. It was 6 years, $210 million to go out to the desert and play for Arizona. And this is really interesting to me because the Dodgers continue to do Dodger things. They signed Blake Snell. They re-signed Teoscar Hernandez. They keep bringing in all these guys and giving them deferred contracts. And it kind of bothers me. Because my dad's a San Francisco Giants fan. So I was raised hating the Dodgers. And I keep seeing the Dodgers make all these moves. And Passan had a tweet about it yesterday. He's like, listen, they're a machine. Your team can do this too. They choose not to, which hurts as a fan of a team that isn't the Los Angeles Dodgers. But it is true that my team can do that if they want to, especially my team. I root for the Boston Red Sox, and they love to play poor, and it blows my mind. It's just the fact that their ownership group cares more about Liverpool and the Pittsburgh Penguins than they do about the Boston Red Sox. So sell the team, John Henry. I don't care anymore. But Corbin Burns signs with Arizona. Arizona wasn't great this year. They were solid. Their win projection for next year was at 83.5. They've got a couple of studs. Zach Gallen, I think, is now the best number 2 pitcher maybe in baseball. That guy's an absolute stud. And the fact that he doesn't have to be the ace of that team anymore is going to be big for him. Ketel Marte, one of the best second basemen in baseball. Really fun to watch. They lose Christian Walker, replace him with Josh Naylor from the Cleveland Guardians, lefty hitting first baseman. I really like Josh Naylor. I think he's a really solid player. They've got Corbin Carroll out there in the outfield who didn't have a great start to the year this past season, but we know that he can be a superstar. I think the Diamondbacks are going to try to gun for the NL West. They're tired of being the little brother to the Los Angeles Dodgers in recent years. Remember, this Diamondbacks team, just 2 seasons ago, was in the World Series. And it's a very similar Diamondbacks team. Like I said, they replaced Christian Walker with Josh Naylor, but all those other guys I just mentioned, outside of Corbin Burns, were on that team 2 seasons ago. So we know that this team can get hot. And we know that this team can win a lot of ball games. I forgot to mention their catcher, Gabriel Moreno, is one of my favorites. Watched him when he was in Buffalo quite a bit. He was traded from the Blue Jays to the Diamondbacks, and I really like him. They've also got Lourdes Gurriel Jr. in left field, a really solid player that they also got from the Blue Jays in that same trade. Very, very interesting offseason for the Diamondbacks, who have been pretty quiet outside of that Naylor acquisition. Going out and getting the best pitcher on the market, a true Cy Young candidate every single year. A guy that anytime he steps on the mound, you're thinking 7 shutout with 10 strikeouts. All of a sudden, that team got a lot more interesting. Jordan Montgomery was terrible last year. I don't see him being that bad again. He's still on the Diamondbacks. I think he wants to prove a little something that the GM was like, this is the worst decision I've ever made signing this guy, which is a ridiculous thing to say if you're not going to cut the guy. They've got some guys, and I think the Diamondbacks are going to make some noise out west this year in the National League. I'm not saying they're going to win the division because I'm not sure, but they certainly just became a much more interesting team to watch moving forward. Something I was talking to Jamie about. he brought up SU's a football school now. And this is an argument that Pat and I have had for years about whether SU is a football or basketball school. Pat claims that every college is a football school. And I said we can be a basketball school and have a good football team. But it's not about the school itself, because SU still is a basketball and lacrosse school. And we are a historic football program. I'm not denying that, but we're not a football school. It's still a basketball and lacrosse school. Maybe it's turning into a football school now with Fran Brown and this atrocity that is the Syracuse basketball program. Maryland beat us a week ago, 87-60. Syracuse scored 43 points in the second half of that game, which means at halftime, the score was 43-17, Maryland, on national television at the Barclays Center. I don't know what even to say anymore about this Syracuse basketball program. None of it makes sense. Elijah Moore goes 7 of 11 from the field, 2 of 3 from three-point range, 16 points, 2 steals, an assist. He plays 22 minutes coming off the bench. Jaquan Carlos, our starting point guard, played 40 minutes. He took 5 shots, made 1 of them, 4 assists, 3 rebounds, 2 points, and 4 turnovers. He played 40 minutes. Donnie Freeman, 6 of 10 from the field, 1 of 3 from 3. Syracuse shot 8 of 16 from the three-point line, by the way, 50%. 15 points, 7 rebounds, 4 assists. He played 26 minutes. Our starting center, Eddie Lampkin, 9 points, 10 rebounds, 4 of 10 from the field. Also he had 4 assists, 10 rebounds, 1 steal. He played 33. The fact that out of the guys I just mentioned, Elijah Moore is coming off the bench still and putting up numbers like that game in and game out. It's usually higher in terms of scoring in recent games. We've seen him get above 20 a few times. He's still not starting. I'm sorry, only over 20 once. He had 19 the game before against Cornell. And then he had 24 against Tennessee. He was easily our best player in that game. He played 22 minutes, not starting. Chris Bell only played 17 minutes. I know he hasn't been great this year. I know the shot hasn't fallen yet. But this is a man with a track record at this university. Eddie Lampkin, who I like, is struggling mightily to get up and down the court. But he's staying on the floor for 33 minutes when Donnie Freeman, the 5-star freshman, who's also 6'10", not as large as Eddie Lampkin, but only an inch shorter, plays 26 minutes and usually finds the bench at key moments in the game. Why? Previously, Red Autry had said it was because Donnie Freeman didn't know what we were doing on defense. He said that Lucas Taylor and Jair Davis did. Syracuse plays man-to-man defense, so I think that's a crock. If this keeps up, the optimism that we all have for next season goes out the window with Donnie Freeman and Elijah Moore at different basketball teams next year. It's not going to be Kyan Anthony and Sadiq White and Elijah Moore and Donnie Freeman. That's not going to happen if this keeps up. And all of a sudden, we are going to find ourselves in perpetual hell with the fact that I do think Red is a really good recruiter. I do think that it's great that we're getting 5-star guys to come to Syracuse for the first time in a while. I love that. I love the job he's done recruiting. I like Jair Davis. I like Lucas Taylor. I like Peter Mastorovich. I like a lot of the guys on this team. But this isn't a team right now. This is a collection of players. And that's the way college basketball is moving in general, is it's not so much a team as it is a collection of players. And things change every single year. Rosters are more in flux than they ever have been previously. So after a demoralizing 27-point loss, you expect me to sit here and think that this future that we've all envisioned for Syracuse next year, with the 5 stars and the great young team, with all the great underclassmen that if they can just get things together, maybe can go on a run. I don't know how many of these guys are going to be here next year. Kyan Anthony, I think, will be here at least for 1 year, and then he goes to the league or transfers, depending on how he plays and how he's coached. But something needs to change. I'm not saying it's fire Red Autry, because that's not what I want them to do. But I would like Red to change something. Put Elijah Moore in the starting lineup. See what happens. Maybe play another, someone else, give someone else a shot to try to run the point and not run Jaquan Carlos into the ground every game for 40 minutes. Because towards the end of these games, you can tell he's getting gassed because he's been out there for 40 minutes. Just give something else a shot. Maybe do it today against Bucknell, where you're a double-digit favorite at the Dome. Just try anything. Or I'm going to start to get even more tired of watching this team, which I am growing very tired of watching this team. We're going to take a timeout. Come back. I think Pat said he wants to call in, so come back with Pat and much more to come here on Outside the Box Score. For the best local beer in Central New York, the only place you need to look is Myers Creek Brewing Company, with 16 different beers on tap at both the Inner Harbor in Syracuse and the Palace that is the Cazenovia location. Myers Creek has something for everyone. Want a bite to eat? Both locations feature a kitchen with delicious pizzas, some of the best wings in Syracuse, and much more. Make sure to check out our friends at Myers Creek Brewing Company, the official bar of Outside the Box Score.
Millions of Americans take medicine like Ozempic and Zepbound. Many of them are overpaying by thousands of dollars a year. These GLP-1 medications for diabetes, weight loss, and more may not always be covered by your insurance, but GoodRx can help. GoodRx helps you save every month on prescriptions at over 70,000 pharmacies nationwide. Best of all, it's free to use. Check GoodRx to save on GLP-1s. Just go to GoodRx.com/GLP. That's GoodRx.com/GLP. GoodRx is not insurance, but can be used instead of insurance, including Medicare and other federal and state-funded programs.
I'm glad Jamie just reminded me of something that I wanted to talk about, because there is something in recent news that I wanted to cover, and it totally slipped my mind with all the Syracuse stuff going on. So shout out to Jamie the FedEx guy for calling back quickly and reminding me of that piece of news, which we are going to talk about either this segment or the final segment. And I'm excited to see. Pat says he's got trivia for me, so I'm excited to hear what this is, because I do love me some sports trivia. Also, shout out Gus Johnson last night on the broadcast for bringing up Grimaldi's as a great spot to eat in Syracuse.
Gus, I love you. No, I like you. It was fun to listen to Gus Johnson call a Syracuse game last night. But someone get that man back in the 315. Because Grimaldi's, Gus, I know it's been 15 years, but come on. Been closed for a decade. And we're back outside the box score with me, Mark Rowlands, your home for local sports in Syracuse on the score 1260. We got Pat calling in, says he's got some trivia for me. So, Pat, what is it?
Mark, can you name every Pro Football Hall of Famer that went to Syracuse?
Everyone?
Everyone. There is currently...
There's 8 or something, right?
Currently 8 of them. Currently 8 of them, not counting Freeney yet.
Oh, not counting Freeney.
Not counting Freeney yet.
Okay, so...
Because he hasn't been inducted yet.
Okay, fair. Marvin Harrison.
Yes, he's the most recent one.
John Mackey.
Yes.
Al Davis.
Yes. Shout out Al Davis.
Shout out Al Davis. Jim Brown, Floyd Little.
Yep.
2 more.
I think you're missing 3 more.
3? Didn't I just name 6?
Did you say? Yeah. I don't want to say one, and maybe you got it.
Well, yeah.
There's a center in there.
Oh, you know.
There's also one. There's 2 big ones that you're missing too.
Oh, Art Monk.
Art Monk is one of them. Yes.
And Larry Zonka.
Yes, and then there's one more.
I never remember his name, Pat. I'm going to be totally honest with you. I know who you're talking about, and I never remember his name.
You want me to tell you?
Yeah.
Jim Ringo.
Ringo.
Yes.
His name always slips my mind. John Mackey is another one that I always forget. But I was just talking to my dad about that recently. So he's one that I always forget too. So I'm glad he was on my mind. But Ringo, I never remember.
Now, Mark, let me ask you another question. So Syracuse, I don't even know how I'm going to put this. What number of, in like the all-time rankings, does Syracuse have, like in terms of like total players inducted into the Hall of Fame?
They're like 5th.
How would you? They are 5th.
Yeah,
that's pretty good for a quote-unquote basketball school, huh?
Yeah. Well, here's the thing, Pat. I have never denied that Syracuse has a historic football program. Have I ever denied that?
No, but you gotta understand, dude. It's like, this is a football school. Basketball doesn't drive the bus, dude.
Okay,
football will make the money.
So for a team that hasn't won a national championship since 1958 in football.
At least they won one, though. There's a lot.
Yes.
There's
and it's
so many
great.
programs that don't even have one.
Yes.
Never even sniffed it.
And we have one in football and have one in basketball, which is a rare combination. Absolutely. But for a program that hasn't won since 1958, I'm glad we won one, but I'm just throwing that out there, that it's been my dad's entire life. Well, he was 1 when they won, but whatever. And while those players were great, Dwight Freeney included in this, Dwight Freeney, Marvin Harrison, all those guys. I mean, the College Football Tight End Award is named after John Mackey. They are phenomenal players. Syracuse's enduring legacy on college sports, I would say, is in basketball.
I don't know if that's true. I mean, because you look at that, you got guys like Ernie Davis and Jim Brown, who are 2. Yeah, I mean, you can't tell the story of college football without those 2 guys.
Absolutely not.
It's like, are we really talking about legacy here? It's probably football.
Can you tell the story of college basketball without Jim Boeheim, or without Dave Bing, or without Carmelo Anthony?
I don't know if it's can you tell the story of college basketball without Jim Boeheim. I think it's more of he was wrapped into the whole Big East thing, where it's like football kind of stands on its own. Not that they weren't accomplished. Not that Jim Boeheim's not great, but I mean, I think he's more wrapped into the whole Big East thing rather than like football. Like has these standout moments and has these standout players that like people can look back to and be like, okay, yeah, that was a big moment for the sport.
The leading scorer in Big East history went to Syracuse.
For sure, but first Black Heisman Trophy winner, and then Jim Brown, who might be the best athlete of all time.
Well, yes, he is my pick for the best athlete of all time. I've discussed that
You know
on
what
the
I'm
show
saying?
prior.
So it's like, yeah, it's like him and like, dude, he's like on the level of like Otani. You know what I mean? It's like these people are crazy. So
Yeah.
it's like, I don't know, if we're talking about legacy, we're talking about like historic moments for any program. It's like, I mean, football is way more historic and way more revered than basketball ever was.
I guess.
I mean, that just is what it is. It makes them money. That's why they leave the Big East. It wasn't basketball.
Yes, I understand that, but that's the case for any Division I college. Is they make more money in football than they do basketball.
I don't know if that's entirely true though, because it's like you look at these teams like Kansas, look at these teams like Duke, where they're bringing in a ton of money for those programs specifically, and it's like, I don't know. Can you say the same thing about those hardcore basketball schools? Like, no.
I get
maybe UNC now.
Yeah,
maybe UNC now is the outlier in there.
UNC, I think, is an outlier. I think Alabama's an outlier now.
Well, no,
I'm sorry.
Alabama's so clearly a football
no,
school.
I meant Alabama is like the outlier the opposite way, because they went from being just football to now also having a national championship contending basketball program. So
yeah,
they're an outlier in an opposite way.
Yes.
And so yeah, I think Duke and Kansas are exceptions to the rule. I think the rule at most schools is football brings in the money. I mean, we've got UConn is playing right now, and UConn, same thing. They're an exception to the rule where it's a pretty much a basketball school, despite the fact that they won 8 games this year and they're playing in a bowl. So they've turned around what was at one point the worst program in the entire country.
Yeah, but they also aren't making any money on their football program this year because they're not in the conference.
Well, yeah, they're independent. So
yeah, they're independent, and there's only one team that really works for.
Yeah, it's only Notre Dame because of the TV money.
Yeah,
so
I mean the NBC deal. Shout out Mike Tirico.
Yeah, shout out Mike Tirico and Noah Eagle, who does those games, Syracuse grad. And
does he do those games?
Yeah,
he didn't do those games this year.
Yeah, he did.
Did he do those games this year? I thought it was they had Collinsworth's son do most of them with Jason Garrett.
Oh, Eagle did them last year. Collinsworth was this year.
He definitely. Yeah, he did. Hold on, I'm looking this up too.
Yeah, Jack Collinsworth, one of the biggest one of the biggest cases of nepotism in sports. That guy stinks.
Yeah. Oh, it was Noah Eagle this year. That is true.
Yeah, okay, that's what I thought. And
Noah's
grown on me a lot. At first, I was like, he's just doing an impression of his dad, but he is really good.
He's awesome.
Yeah, he's great.
He really won me over during the Olympics.
He was
awesome during the Olympics.
Yeah, he was. Did you see the clip of him simulating an argument with his father?
He sounds exactly like him. His voice doesn't fit how he looks.
It doesn't.
Bothers me.
But it was really funny. It was during a Nets game, I think. He was because he's the radio guy for the Nets while his father's the TV guy.
Yeah.
And it was during a Nets game, and someone asked, "What does an argument between you and your dad sound like?" It goes something like this. My dad walks in, he goes, "Clean your room," and I say, "No, I don't want to." And it's just him going back and forth.
Breakfast denied.
Yeah, the breakfast denied. It's very funny. But shout out Noah Eagle, Syracuse grad, and friend of Syracuse Mets broadcaster Evan Stockton. So
yes. I'll leave you with this last question.
Okay.
Because I think you have to go to break at some point.
I do.
Can you name the 4 schools in front of Syracuse with the most representatives in the Pro Football Hall of Fame?
I can guess.
Hit me.
Probably Alabama.
Nope.
Okay, shocking. Texas?
Nope.
Tennessee?
No SEC teams.
No SEC teams? Okay.
No SEC teams.
Ohio State.
Ohio State is 4.
Okay. Michigan?
Michigan is 5, tied with us. But I mean, they're going to have Tom Brady in the next couple of years. So.
Yeah. So Ohio State.
It's very interesting. It's 2 sets of rivals.
Okay.
So you have Ohio State, Michigan.
Yep. And then, I'm trying to think of other big time rivalries that the schools are actually really consistently really good. It's not like Nebraska and Wisconsin, is it?
No.
Okay.
No, not. I was gonna say not Big Ten, but one of them's Big Ten now.
Okay. So one of them's in the big. See, this is why I hate conference realignment, because I'm going through trying to go through the 20 Big Ten teams in my head, and I know I'm forgetting
historic program. It's always been historic. Had some really big players, and then one is like the historic program.
The historic. I already said Alabama. No.
I don't know. I would say this team has a richer history than Alabama.
Okay, is one of them Notre Dame?
The number one is Notre Dame.
Okay, is the other one Penn State?
No.
Oh, okay. Because you said rivalry, and one of them's in the Big Ten.
Yes. Well, you're missing
So
one,
Indiana?
Nope.
No. Oh, USC.
USC is number 2.
Because you said they're now in the Big Ten. Yeah.
Yes, USC is number 2. I was gonna say the great O.J. Simpson played there, but I don't want to give it away.
Yeah.
R.I.P. the legend.
R.I.P. the juice. Pat, I do have to take a break. Thanks for calling in. Always fun getting some trivia from you. Also, how impressed are you that I knew 7 of the 8 right off the top of my head?
I was actually really impressed. I thought you were gonna get Jim Brown and Floyd Little and Marvin Harrison, and then you weren't gonna get any more. So I was impressed you got Al Davis.
Yeah, well, that's one that my dad reminded me so many times that, like, that guy went to Syracuse. And it's like,
yeah,
okay.
I know, big time. Next time I see you, I got to tell you the story. If you ever read the story about how Al Davis got into football at Syracuse, it's a good story.
Okay, yeah, we'll have to talk about it.
All right, dude.
All right, see you, pal.
See you.
There he is, my good friend Pat Burke calling in with some SU football trivia. We're going to take a time out, come back, wrap things up with a little tribute when we come back here on Outside the Box Score. If you're a fan of local craft beer, the only place you need to go is Myers Creek Brewing Company with 16 brews on tap at both the Cazenovia and Inner Harbor locations. Myers Creek has the best selection of locally brewed libations in all of central New York. Want a nice hazy IPA? The Velvet Fog is a must-try. More of a traditional Pilsner, how about the Floatin' on By? And for you sour drinkers, the It Takes Blue to Mango. So crack open a cold one with the official beer of Outside the Box Score, Myers Creek. Also, do you know who Colonel Bruce Hampton is? I know Bruce Hampton, the musician. Does he go by Colonel? Yeah. Yeah. I know he died. I don't know how, no. Also, Stone, shout out you getting the backpack. We love that. I'm glad it's a nice bag. That makes me very happy for you. It really does. All right. Pat has texted me the story of Colonel Bruce Hampton's death. Oh, during his 70th birthday concert. That's insane. I mean, I also would think he was kidding. Yeah, he starts doing the Fred Sanford bit. Can you imagine being up there on stage with him? Yeah, like if you're Susan Tedeschi and you're just kicking this guy, and it's like, oh boy, oh no. That's nuts.
Sponsored by Progressive Insurance. Progressive offers a great price and round-the-clock protection when bundling home and auto.
That is absolutely nuts.
Great. Bundle today at progressive.com.
back. Outside the Box Score with me, Mark Rowlands, your home for local sports in Syracuse, right here on the Score 1260. Wrapping up another good hour here on the Score. Wrapping things up with a little bit of a tribute. Jamie called back in and reminded me of something I wanted to talk about that had kind of slipped my mind, but the sports world lost one of the absolute icons of athletics recently on December 20th, just 5 days before his 66th birthday. We lost Ricky Henderson. Not just an icon in the world of baseball, but an icon in the world of sports. Grew up in the Oakland area, and he ends up playing for his hometown team in the Athletics before going on to the Yankees, then going back to Oakland, then moving on to many other teams, the Mariners, the Mets, the Padres, the Red Sox, the Blue Jays, the Angels, and the Dodgers. Actually won a World Series with the Toronto Blue Jays in 1993. Two-time World Series winner. Ricky once with the A's as well. And a guy that obviously the stolen base number is astounding. 1,406 stolen bases, still the all-time record, still also the all-time runs scored leader, 2,295, a feat he accomplished, of course, by hitting a home run and sliding into home plate to set the all-time runs scored record when he was with the San Diego Padres. But outside of the athletic prowess, 1990 American League MVP, Gold Glove winner, a bunch of all-star appearances. Just the epitome of cool. I mean, people talk about the guys now that pimp home runs and, go ahead and run around the bases and stuff like that. Ricky was the first one to start, pimping home runs a little bit. He would always tug at his jersey collar after he knew that he hit one out. He'd take a little skip step, tug at the jersey collar, and just remind you, yeah, Ricky took you deep. Because, of course, he had to talk about himself in the third person because that was Ricky being Ricky. And you cannot talk about yourself in the third person and get away with it unless you are absolutely one of the coolest guys to ever step on a baseball field. Stolen bases were an art form for Ricky Henderson. I remember watching a breakdown he did on MLB Network with Harold Reynolds and Barry Larkin, a couple of guys who stole a few bags in their heyday as well. And they didn't want to talk about Ricky stealing second because everyone knew that Ricky was going to steal second. If Ricky was on first, he was in scoring position. But the art of stealing third, it's a really interesting breakdown. I highly recommend you look it up. They replayed it on MLB Network a few times after Ricky had passed away on December 20th. And this is a guy that knows everything about how to steal a base and get away with it. I mean, yes, was he caught the most times in Major League history? Sure. Because he stole 1,406 bases. He stole over 100 bases 3 times, topping out at 130 in 1982. He also hit over almost 300 home runs. He had 297 career home runs. He had over 3,000 career hits. He had over 1,000 runs driven in. He walked 500 times more than he struck out. Good for a 401 career on base percentage to go along with a 279 average. One of the 15 best players ever to step on a baseball field. And he did it while being the coolest dude on the field for 24 years. So a massive rest in peace to Ricky Henderson, taken from us too soon, right before what would have been his 66th birthday. We'll be back next week, same time, same channel, 11 a.m. right here on the Score 1260. Hope you enjoyed the show. Thank you to everyone for listening. We'll see you then. Peace.